Hi, welcome back to the channel. And as I'm sure many of you are aware, the Citroen Ami has in the last couple of weeks launched in the UK. You can actually order this thing, but the question is, should you? Firstly, a little bit of context. We got this quadricycle about 7 months ago. You may remember the video we did at the end of the beach here when we took delivery. And it was a super exciting moment, not least because of course neither of us had a driving license or had ever driven any other car. And we should put, you should put this this 4,000 kilometer review into that context, that I am not talking about other cars because I have never driven one. And of course the amazing thing is that here in France you don't actually need a driving license to drive a Citroen Ami. In fact, you can, after a few lessons, drive it age 14 upwards. So how long have you had your car?
Well, I've got it for 1 year since last April.
Ah oui? And combien de kilomètres?
Approximately 7,500.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, number one, top of the list, has just got to be sheer fun. It has given us just an incredible amount of pleasure. It's the sort of thing that wherever you take it, it brings a smile on people's faces. People, complete strangers, wave at you in the street. Kids particularly just love it. You see their little faces beam. Our Chihuahua, she quite likes it, and she doesn't normally like cars. So it's a super fun, simple, utilitarian vehicle. Another good point is the cost to run this thing is so small. Even with electricity prices having gone up, you can fully charge this thing for, I think, around £1.30, something like that. And of course there are many places where you can get a free charge. So if you're talking about saving money on fuel, then investing in a Citroen Ami will save you a lot of money. We managed to go to Italy and back for our great Italian adventure, and I think we did about 200 kilometers in total, and I think it cost us about £5 in charges, you know, so really, really super cheap. To me, one of the other great points about it is the simplicity of this vehicle. It is incredibly easy to use. There are two pedals. There is a brake and there is a throttle. There are 3 buttons down here. You press 1 to go forward, you press 1 for neutral, and you press 1 to go in reverse. It's a very simple light system. In fact, the light system is so simple that basically there isn't a switch for it. In other words, the minute you turn on the throttle, the lights are on. Let's talk a little bit about the design. Well, as many people have pointed out, this car is a bit of a Marmite thing. It is, you know, it is symmetrical. The front is exactly the same as the back. You can buy the front piece or you can buy the back piece. They are the same. The doors are the same, etc., etc. Brief interruption for drama. And you know, I think it's the sort of design that you either love this level of functionalism, it's got a wit about it. That's what I love. It doesn't take itself seriously. So many cars seem to take themselves super seriously with their fenders and their lights and their speedos and this gizmo and that gizmo. And this is not that car. This is something for getting you to A to B in a very fun, simple way. The other thing I love about this car is the amount of light that comes into it. I mean, despite the fact that its range is only 75 kilometers, it is in many ways the perfect touring car because you can see absolutely everything. It is glass to the side of you, glass to the front of you, glass to the rear of you, and of course, glass above you, which makes it a wonderful car to drive in places where you want to see stuff. Now this sounds absolutely crazy, But this car has more legroom, I think, than the Ferrari 812 that we did a video with about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago when we sort of raced it to the Mayborn Hotel. When I got in the Ferrari, I simply couldn't believe just how little legroom there was. There is absolutely tons of legroom here. There's plenty of room for a suitcase, there's plenty of room for shopping, and it is way more pleasant and comfortable to be inside than you would expect. It is such a relief that you can plug this in to a domestic socket. You don't need any special charger at home. All you need is an extension cable and you plug it into your domestic socket and away you go. That means that you can charge at home. It means wherever you are, as long as there are some houses, you always think in the back of your mind, well, I could knock on somebody's door if I got really stuck and say, could I, give you a few quid and have a free charge? And it means that in many places, certainly in Nice here, we can just plug into the electric charging points and we get completely free charging for the first 2 hours, and we get completely free parking. Not surprisingly, some of those parking spots are a bit coveted, shall we say. Now, that's not always true if you go over the border into Italy. We've been having to use a Type 2 adapter with the 2-pin. But that element works, and of course in the UK when you get yours, you're going to have an adapter from the continental 2-pin to the British 3-pin. But it will, I am almost certain, charge in your domestic socket. You certainly will not need to have a £1,500 charger installed in your garage. And to be honest, if you do install that, it won't charge it any quicker. So there's not really any great advantage. This thing is incredibly easy to park. It may not have power steering, but it more than makes up for it in having a really tiny turning circle, and the fact that the thing is just so tidgy. You can sometimes park it end on in a very small gap, a la the sort of smart car. It's a head turner, and I know quite a lot of people here, like we have logoed up the car, or the quadricycle. And I can see that in the UK, where these are going to be even more rare, that it's a great opportunity to do a bit of business advertising, get the right decals, get them on the outside, and you're away. The other thing that I think is great fun is the ability to personalise this vehicle, and you see it here in France all the time. People have put all kinds of sticker sets and wraps on them, some more pleasant than others, I have to say, but it's something that you can totally make your own. You can quite literally commission the stickers from, say, Sticker Mule and just stick them on. The range we've been getting from the battery is almost exactly what the dial promises. The regeneration works, which means when you're coming back downhill with less than 65 kilometers in the battery, you will get some regeneration. It means that if you go up a very steep hill and you think, oh God, I've used loads and loads of power, you'll find that you can come back quite easily, often by gaining 1 or 2 kilometers. Check out one of our videos about that. So it does what it says on the tin. Now you're thinking there must be some negatives. Oh, there are. There definitely are. Here they come. Now, this may not be as big an issue in the UK for much of the year, but it will certainly be an issue at times, and particularly if you have to park in the sunshine. Because this car is glass, it gets incredibly hot. This morning when I got in the car, it was 50 degrees. And you know, this is of course caused by the fact that there is all this glass. It just turns it into a greenhouse. Now, we've tried all kinds of heat mitigation measures. We've tried using the fan that they supply. It has a bit of an effect. We've tried using these 2 USB fans, which do work well, but don't reduce the temperature. They obviously just move it round. We've put the shield on the sunroof, which has helped a little bit. But in the end, I have to be honest and say we are still baking in this thing, but we are in the south of France, and the temperature is by day at the minute about 30 degrees, and it's not really dropping below 21 at night. So those are extreme conditions for the UK. But do bear in mind that you will need the sort of silver foil to try and keep the sun out as you do with a normal car, and do bear in mind this thing does not have any proper air conditioning, and I have yet to come across an in-car air conditioning system that can do the job. If anybody knows of one, please let me know. Please send us one. We'd gladly review it, because it is a problem we would absolutely love to solve. How cold is this car in winter? Well, we took it through a south of France winter, and you think, well, we don't get cold weather here. It's largely true, but we do get nights where it's sort of 2 or 3 degrees. And there were days when you would get in the car and you would feel the wind, the cold air blowing up through the vehicle, because the insulation on it is very basic, I'll be honest. And you could feel your legs getting quite cold. Now, put this car in a UK context, in a UK winter, and you will, if you come down to your car on a winter's morning and it's not been garaged and it's been parked on the street, you'll need a fair bit of clothing. There's no question about that. You may buy I guess a USB sort of heater. There is a heater with the car, which does work, but obviously there is a battery drain to it, but it certainly does work. But it's very, very basic, and it's quite noisy. It's a bit like your mother's old hairdryer. So bear in mind, if you're going to get this for the UK and you're going to drive it in UK winters, and perhaps you're going to be outside of a city context where it's a bit warmer, you'll need to wrap up. This is not going to be the sort of car that you get in and is instantly toasty. The seats. Now, they're very simple, they're very utilitarian. I like the way they look. I just have to be honest that my 55-year-old bottom cannot cope with the basicness of the cushioning, and I was getting an awful lot of backaches and leg pains and God knows what, and eventually I got some cushions from IKEA, and I got a sort of back thing here which has solved a lot of my problems. But I think you will, if you are a little bit older, or you've got a bony bottom like I have, you might find you'll have to spend a few quid on making the seats just that little bit more comfortable, particularly if you're doing longer drives. And of course, we've done quite a lot of long drives in this car. We've certainly not just driven around the centre of Nice or on the Promenade des Anglais like we're doing today. Now, the other issue is something we made a video about: road rage, speed, the speed this goes. Of course, the top speed is 45 kilometers an hour, that's 28 miles per hour. He jumps an orange light and probably gets shot. Is that an issue? Well, we've made a video about that. For us, around here, this man's more of an issue. No, for us around here, it really isn't an issue. Certainly in the centre of Nice, in the centre of the cities of the south of France, 28 miles per hour is absolutely quick enough. Nobody else is going any quicker anyway. It makes no odds, nobody bats an eyelid. When we get onto the 50 kilometre an hour limit roads, sometimes you're aware that you're slightly holding people up, but again, it's not a massive difference between your 45 top speed and the 50 they're meant to be doing. But it is when you get on the 70 roads and people are trying to overtake that it becomes a little bit more of an issue, and you are aware of sort of holding traffic up behind you. Similarly, if you're going up hills, you know, we've discovered this car is brilliant at climbing hills. It just doesn't do it very quickly. But we've made lots of videos about going up insanely steep hills, and we've got up all of them, and the car is still working. The quadricycle is still working. Now, the difference is, in France, they are used to cars that only go at 45 kilometers an hour. There has been the voiture sans permis since time immemorial. There are probably 50, 60, 70,000 of these things in France. So when people see them, they may secretly curse under their breath and go, oh God, I'm stuck behind a voiture sans permis. But there is that little bit more tolerance and understanding that this is the game, these things are legal. That is why they are limited to that speed, because people don't need to pass a driving license to drive them. Now that is not true of Britain. It is not true that you won't need a driving license. You will need a driving license, and there is no tradition of cars that going super slowly. So I think you have to think about where you live and the context in which you're going to use this thing. If you're going to use it for your daily commute, then you have to ask yourself, on what road do I use this thing to get into, say, the city? Is it a 70 road? Is it a 50 road? You can't, of course, use these on motorways. You can't use them on English motorways either. So you've got to ask yourself, is that going to be an embarrassment to you? Is it going to be a danger to you? Because the only time you feel that this thing poses a threat to your safety is if you've got a driver behind you who's getting very angry and just is determined to get past you at all costs, and does a sort of dodgy overtaking move, and that inevitably puts them at risk and it puts you at risk. So ask yourself about where you are going to use it. If you are largely going to use it in the city centre, if you're in the centre of Leeds, the centre of Bath, the centre of Brighton, whatever, you know, I see no issue with this whatsoever. You're getting a very reasonable, priced mode of urban transport. Brings me neatly on to another issue, which is an issue even here in the south of France, and I think will without doubt be an issue in the UK, is the fact that the windows steam up like crazy when the temperature outside and the temperature inside are very different. And there are ways of mitigating it. Putting what the French call anti-buoy spray on the windscreen and on the side windows helps. You can open the windows, that helps a lot. You can try the fan, that helps a bit. But bear in mind that if it's a very cold, wet UK day and you need to open these side windows to de-steam the car in order to see where you're driving, then you're not in a great scenario. And there have been times in the winter, even here, when we were driving with the windows open, getting a bit chilly, but it was the only way we could clear the fog. To bear in mind, this is a quadricycle and not a car, and if somebody has big safety concerns in terms of how much protection you get, whether there's an airbag, what the bumpers are like, how much crash protection you have, well, you can look up the statistics on quadricycles and they are clearly not as safe as a standard car. So if that is a big issue for you, then it's something that you should bear in mind. There is only one windscreen wiper and it's just a bit odd, because you will be driving in rain and you will look to the right hand side, see what's coming over there, and you literally can't see because it is so covered in raindrops. So the one windscreen wiper, I don't think there's room to install a second one. I'm sure somebody will come up with some phenomenal mod that does it with a mini one or something. But bear in mind, you have only one windscreen wiper. The other thing to bear in mind is that when you get the car, and I'm going to do a video about this, about what you actually get and what you need to buy, is that it doesn't have a rear view mirror. Incredible fact, but it doesn't. So you will certainly need to buy a rear view mirror. So should you buy this thing for the UK? Well, as I say, you've got to weigh up what you're going to use it for, how you're going to use it, where you're going to charge it, where you're going to store it. You're going to save money if you can charge it up. You're going to save money if you can charge it up at home. You're going to find it much easier to park. If you've got a scooter, you're going to find it a much more pleasant way of commuting in the winter. Even if it's a bit cold, you won't be as cold as you will be on the scooter. Even if it's a bit wet, you won't be as wet as you are on the scooter. if you've not really driven very much, if you're not a super confident driver, if you don't feel yourself a super car person, well, the simplicity of it will appeal to you. If you're somebody who likes something that stands out from the crowd, that is fun, that brings a smile to people's faces, then I would say this is the quadricycle for you. It is it's a smile machine on wheels. So weigh up whether it's going to work for your use cases, and you know, if you're somebody who thinks, well, I might want to occasionally go 150 miles in it or 150 kilometers, can it work for that? Yes, it can. We've done lots of long journeys, but you have to plan. You have to work out where you're going to stop. You have to have a bit of patience about finding the chargers. You have to have a bit of patience about whether the chargers are working. So work out what your lifestyle is, work out what your usage for this thing is, and then make the decision. Personally, I've not regretted it for a second. We've had an incredible amount of fun. In fact, the only thing I do regret is that it's kept me off my electric bike more than I would have liked, and I've put on a few kilos, but that's cars for you. Anyway, I hope this has been of some use in trying to help you make that big decision about whether to buy this thing. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget you could buy us a coffee if you want to support the channel, and we'll see you, well, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.